What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We are talking big 15-game MLB slate for Friday, August 31st. Tons to talk about here. We will have a bunch of content out on Osmo.com as usual, spotlight hitters, pitchers, and stacks. We will have the strategy video with Josh and myself in the morning. That starts at about 9 Eastern, a few minutes after that. And then we'll have the live stream, the Andrew and Ben show with Andrew Barron and Ben Raza, talking golf, college football, MLB, I'm sure, although they don't really play too much MLB. But they will be going live at about 2:30 Eastern, so watch that show on the Thursday show the first time, and it was really cool and interesting, so I would suggest watching that if you're trying to learn some of these other sports or just if you want some entertainment. We will have a bunch of content coming out over the next few days, so it's going to be tough to remember to try to list all that, so I should probably be writing some of that down. We will have the deep dive. I can't remember if it's going to be Adam or Lofty doing that, but it will be thorough. It will be good for the 15-game slate. And let's talk about the 15-game slate. So we're going to run through each game, talk about anything interesting. We'll start with Milwaukee and Washington. We've got Yuli Chacin going up against Tanner Roark. Chacin 8,100, Roark for 8,500. Don't really like either of these pitchers here. I think they're both a little bit overpriced. Not big upside pitchers, and kind of in a range where I prefer one guy I'll talk about in the next game more, and he's cheaper. And to be honest, I just rarely play these guys. They're solid real-life pitchers, but for DFS, it's got to take the perfect matchup or an underprice for me to want to play these guys, especially on a 15-game slate. So I like lefties against both of them. So I'm looking at guys like Mike Moustakas, Travis Shaw, Christian Yelich, the hottest hitter in baseball as of late. I'm sure he'll have his home run and a couple other extra base hits in this game because he seems like he does that every single game as of late. And then on the National side, Harper and Soto really stick out. Questionable tag next to Harper's name, so who knows if he's going to play, but if he's in, he is one of my favorite plays at under 5K. Cubs and Phillies, we've got Jose Quintana going up against Nick Pivetta. Quintana, if you've been listening all year, you know I'm not a fan of his. I think he's generally an overrated pitcher. Does struggle against righties too, and I don't think people realize that. On the season, he is giving up 36.6% hard contact, high line drive rate over 23%. Kind of getting lucky with the batted balls. And I don't know. I think some people will play him here, but I like Ramos and Rhys Hoskins a ton. Hoskins is 4,500. That just seems like a clear underprice. So I'll be going to that well quite a bit on this slate, and maybe even full stacking against Jose Quintana. Pivetta is 7,900. Love him when he's at home. 28% K percentage in total. Gets swinging strikes. Gets a decent amount of chases, and I think he's underpriced. I think he should be in the 9K range anytime he's at home. We kind of talked about there is some sneaky strikeout upside in this Cubs lineup, so I'm not really scared of the matchup for Pivetta despite it being a pretty deep lineup for the Cubs. I think if Pivetta's on, then it's not really going to matter who he's going up against. I think he's that caliber of pitcher, and you get to play him for under 8K here, which I think is makes for a really fun GPP play. Tigers and Yankees, we've got Jordan Zimmerman going up against Luis Severino. Zimmerman 6,800, but not looking to play him here. The wind is blowing in Yankee Stadium. It's only 74 degrees, it looks like, for this game. But I'd rather not play a pitcher that I don't really love going into Yankee Stadium against Hicks and Stanton and Andujar, Torres I like. So I'll definitely get to a bunch of Yankees bats. I would expect them to have a decent amount of ownership, even on a big slate. And my favorite, as it usually is against the righties, is Aaron Hicks, and he always goes under-owned for some reason. Probably just because there's Stanton right there for more, and Stanton's a bigger name, and I get it, but I really like Hicks in this spot. Severino for 11.3. I have no issue with playing him. He seems a little bit underpriced after a couple decent starts in a row. He seems like he's kind of got his confidence back. I don't know what was going on with him before. The run prevention was a big issue. But back to getting swings and misses his last few starts. Still allowing a few earned runs, not going as deep as you want him to. But 11-3, I think you're looking for 6 or 7 innings, and he could definitely get a strikeout per inning against this Tigers team. So many strikeouts from the right side with guys like Matuk and James McCann and Goodrum, Candelario, Castellanos, like Victor Reyes. I mean, there's just so many strikeouts depending on who's in this lineup. If Jacoby Jones is in there, even better. So I do like Luis Severino quite a bit. Toronto and Miami, we've got Aaron Sanchez going up against Dan Straley. Sanchez 6,100. Straley is 7,200. I thought I was going to like at least one of these two guys, but I'm not really on much of anything in this game. I mean, Sanchez is not someone that is getting a lot of swings and misses this entire season, kind of been in and out of the lineup. I mean, he's cheap enough where you could take a shot on him. It's decent pitching weather here, winds blowing in over 10 miles an hour and in. It may not matter. They may close the stadium because there is a chance of rain. So I don't think Sanchez is like the craziest option, but I don't think I will end up getting to him. And then Dan Straley, 7,200. I have to admit, he did have a pretty good start against Atlanta when I was all over the Atlanta bats. The plate discipline stuff was solid. He was getting ahead of hitters. He was getting chases. I don't think Straley's a changed pitcher. I still think lefties are going to crush him, and I will be targeting lefties in this spot. The problem is Toronto only has 2 that I'm looking at in the projected lineup, and that's Billy McKinney and Kendrys Morales. So 2 guys that have been recently really hot, and I have no issue going to either of those guys here, especially if Straley's going to get some ownership. Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Tyler Glasnow going up against Corey Kluber. Glasnow 8,300. I think he is a little bit overpriced. I wouldn't be shocked to see him have a good start here. He's gotten up to 98 pitches in his last start, 8 strikeouts. Like, you just see the raw strikeout stuff is pretty much always there for Glasnow. It's just a matter of whether or not he can control his stuff and avoid blowups, and he's done that so far to his credit in the MLB this year. So I'm not like all in on Cleveland bats or anything like that, but Jose Ramirez just always jumps off the page for me. He's pretty much always in my player pool and always comes up 10, 20%, somewhere in there depending on the size of the slate. So he's going to be the one guy I get to a lot as one-offs. And he's only 5,300, which is weird. That's like one of the lowest prices I've seen for him in quite a long time. So much prefer him over Lindor. And then Brantley, only 4,700, I think, is a fine play. Kluber, 10-3. I'm a little worried about Corey Kluber, and I think people will go to him here just because of the 3.2 run total for the Rays and Kluber being a big name. But run prevention for him has been a really big issue. Like, even in these starts where he's missing bats, it seems like he just can't not allow runs. As weird as that is to say for a guy that I have no clue what Kluber's ERA is, but I'm sure it's not impressive. I don't really look at ERA. But just like looking at some of these game logs, he's allowing 4 and 3 and 5 earned runs, and like the strikeouts are there for the most part, but for 10-3, I think there is another option that I like a little bit more expensive than him that we'll talk about at the very end. So if Kluber's going to have any sort of double-digit ownership or anything like that, I think it's a pretty easy fade, which is crazy. Even a couple months ago, I wouldn't have thought of fading Kluber at 10-3, but I think that's where I'm at for this slate. Pittsburgh and Atlanta, we've got Jameson Taillon going up against Anibal Sanchez. Taillon, 9K, I think too expensive to use against the Braves. You just see some of these rates for strikeouts on the Braves, and you've got Enciarte at under 15, Markakis under 15, Freeman, Camargo, Flowers all around 20. I mean, there's just not very many easy strikeouts. You got guys with 25, 30% K rates. So I think Taillon will struggle to get the strikeouts. he's not someone I love targeting against. But Freddie Freeman is too cheap at 4,600, and Nick Markakis is as well, in my opinion, for 3,900. So there you go. The two-man dynamic duo, as EMAC was calling it in chat. That's going to be a two-man dynamic duo that I will have. Anibal Sanchez at 8K. He's just like a whatever play for me. Like they price him in this 8K range, and I never really know what to do with him. I think he is fine. I think he has improved. He does a pretty good job of just surviving and going 5 or 6 innings, but I don't think that's that valuable in this slate. I don't think Sanchez is going to kill you, especially with how poor Pittsburgh has been against righties over the last month or so. So he's the guy that, as an MME player, he's going to be left in my player pool. But if I'm making a single entry lineup, there's just no way that I would ever end up on Anibal on this slate. And I probably wouldn't end up on much, if anything, on this slate as far as Pittsburgh bats against Anibal. Twins and Rangers, here we go in Texas. I believe it's going to be Steven Gonsalves against Drew Hutchinson. And, man, Gonsalves, not someone that I think is very good. And you see that in the Rangers' implied total, 5.9 runs for them. Gonsalves just can't do much of anything right now. The xFIP is off the charts. He's getting crushed by both sides. I know it's a small sample, but in this park, it could be another meltdown here for Gonsalves. So I'm all over the Rangers. They're one of my top stacks on the night. I kind of like that they have lefties in here, like Gallo and Odor and Chu, that all hit left-handed pitchers well, because people may see Gonsalves, a lefty, in there, and just kind of avoid the Rangers stack as a whole. But I love the Rangers on this slate. Drew Hutchinson going for Texas, 5,100. I don't think he's very good either. A 16% K rate, 560 xFIP, 8.7% swinging strike rate. Not particularly good against either hand. And I wish I could play more Twins bats. I mean, you guys know how much I love Eddie Rosario. I like Jorge Polanco and Max Kepler. And that's going to be the majority of my Twins exposure. I'm not crazy about Forsythe, although he is 3K. Mauer is just kind of a whatever play, a filler to a stack, and not much more. And then Sano, such a big strikeout target that I hate playing him when he's going to be popular. Boston and Chicago White Sox, Nathan Eovaldi going up against Michael Kopech. Eovaldi 8,800. So it's a good matchup for Eovaldi. There's no doubt about it. The White Sox strike out as much as anyone for the season against righties, and then over the last month, just atrocious against both hands. They just swing and miss as much as anybody. I mean, Eovaldi, kind of an unlucky start in his last time out. I believe it was against Tampa Bay, 500 BABIP. He had a 20% swinging strike rate. I never really know how to evaluate that when the guys allow 5 earned runs. But I know Eovaldi can miss bats. He can throw that fastball right by some of these White Sox hitters. And I think he's got a chance to have a ceiling start here, 25, 30 DK points. I think he's able to get to that in this spot. So I'll have a decent amount of Eovaldi and probably very few White Sox bats, if any. Kopech, 9,100. So here's the deal with him. He's going to be left in my player pool. If I'm making a single entry, I doubt I would get to Michael Kopech. But he's going to be left in my player pool. He grades out as just a very good pitcher. I like what I've seen from him in the first couple starts. Super tough spot. But I think he is the kind of pitcher where if things are going well for him, he can mow down pretty much any lineup. I don't expect a ton of strikeouts here. Would it be shocking if he did end up with a bunch of strikeouts? No, I don't think it would be shocking. But 9,100 is a pretty tough price to play him at. And so that's why I say I'm going to leave him in my player pool. I'm not going to actively fade him. I'm not going to actively play him. I definitely want some exposure to him, especially if he's going to be 1 or 2% owned, which I'm guessing he will be. Just people see 9,100, young pitcher against the Red Sox with a 5 total. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to target bats against him regardless. Just really good at getting out of jams with that kind of stuff. And I don't see a big blow-up start here for him. All right, let's go to the Angels and the Astros. We have Jaime Barria going up against Framber Valdez. Barria 6,300. I'm not on Barria here. He's got some real issues against righties. On the season, 548 xFIP, 38% hard contact, under 16% K rate. And then I'm just not targeting against this Houston lineup for the foreseeable future. So I like Correa a ton for 4,400. That's just an underprice. Altuve, same thing, 4,800. Bregman's the one guy that is probably a little bit overpriced for 5,600, but in the context of a stack, I think you're going to be able to get to most of these Astros bats pretty easily, all the way down through Gurriel and Reddick. All right. And then the other side of that game, Valdez wasn't overly impressed with what I saw. He is a minus 205 favorite and is somewhat stretched out, but I don't really see him racking up a ton of strikeouts here. And he is 7K. It's not like he's 5K where you just need 5 or maybe 6 innings out of him. You kind of need a few strikeouts. You need him to have a chance at this win. And honestly, I don't think he is all that great just yet. So probably Trout against him, and that's about it on the Angels side. Baltimore and KC, kind of crazy weather here, 90 degrees, wind blowing straight out to left. And this could change by the time you even hear this, and certainly before lock time. But just keep an eye out for the weather in this game. One guy I like as far as pitching goes is Brad Keller. But if this weather holds up closer to lock, there's just no way I can play Brad Keller in this kind of weather, even against a bad team like Baltimore. They've been hitting a ton better, actually, as of late. And then I just don't want to play a guy in humid, hot weather with wind blowing out, especially a guy I'm kind of on the fence on. So Cashner on the other side, 5,800. I don't want to play Cashner, obviously. Salvador Perez, I think, is my favorite play in this entire game. I like Bonifacio for 3,600. Gordon is only 3,900. And then Whit Merrifield, stolen base and some power upside in this spot. So he makes for an awesome duo with Salvador Perez, or if you want to go to a 4 or 5 man stack with Bonifacio and Alex Gordon. I would imagine KC does get some ownership if this weather holds up, just because they're so cheap and it's against Cashner. Reds and Cardinals, we have Homer Bailey going up against Austin Gomber. Bailey, 4,500. Not someone that I'm going to be playing here. And Cardinals bats are going to be super popular. They're all under 5K. They're all 4,600 or under. Besides Matt Carpenter, you're going to be able to afford these Cardinals. They're going to be popular for good reason. I will likely be right there with everyone. 84 degrees, humid in St. Louis. The thing I'm not going to be with the field on is Gomber at 7,700. Not an overly impressive pitcher to me. Giving up a lot of hard hits, just a 20% K rate in total, a 487 xFIP. I think he's been pretty lucky so far. So he's a huge favorite here, minus 220. It almost makes me feel like he's not even going to be the starter, but I'm seeing him listed at multiple sources. So just kind of a weird line here in St. Louis. If Suarez in the lineup, Eugenio Suarez, if he's in, I will have a ton of him against a lefty in Gomber that I think has been getting pretty lucky. So yeah, I do like Suarez a ton as a leverage bet. I'm assuming Gomber gets a bunch of ownership here. Seattle and Oakland, we've got Mike Leake going up against Mike Fiers. Battle of the Mikes here, and I don't think I have much interest in either side of this game. especially as far as pitching. Leak, not someone I love targeting against in bad parks. I will play Jed Lowry just because he's too cheap at 4,300 and Matt Olson at 3,900, but I don't think I'll be deploying full stacks on either side. Fires has been so much better at home, but he's just too expensive. He's 9,600. If he's 8K in this spot, yeah, I would have a bunch of Fires, but not the highest upside arm, and this isn't a great strikeout matchup. Seattle has a bunch of guys that strike out under 13% of the time. Colorado and San Diego. Antonio Senzatella against Brett Kennedy. Senzatella is 5,600 and Kennedy is 4,400. So kind of tough to just avoid both of these guys. I don't really like either one of them as pitchers. Senzatella is 5,600. It's a good park, but he just gets no swings and misses. Under 7% swinging strike rate on the season. Under 23% chase rate. Like, those are pretty poor numbers. I know he's had good starts here and there, but I would assume that some people are on him here, and I won't be one of them. So I know it's a good matchup, but I can just see tomorrow morning when we get the ownership projections that he's going to be like 17% on a 15-game slate, and I'm just not interested in that. Brett Kennedy, 4,400. Same thing with him. If he's going to be 17% tomorrow morning and people are going to be talking about him all day, then he'll be pretty easy to get off of. But he's been bad as far as results go. I think he is a little bit better than what the results have shown. He's not going to light the world on fire with strikeouts or anything like that. But this Colorado team is just so bad outside of Coors against righties. And that's exactly what we have here. We have a $4,400 pitcher who threw 92 pitches in his last start. So this is going to be one where if the ownership is right on Kennedy, if he's at 5%, then yeah, I'm going to close my eyes and play 20% of him and hope he can get me to double digits. If he's the chalk punt tomorrow morning, then it's going to be a lot easier, and I just will pivot elsewhere. So probably no bats in this game on either side unless one of these pitchers' ownership is insane. Then I would consider just a leverage stack or a duo stack against the chalky pitcher. Arizona and LA, the Dodgers. Looks like Zach Greinke going up against Ryu. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his first name. But anyways, Greinke at 11K. Kind of a weird price for him. He's on the road. I like using him at home. Pretty sizable home road splits for Greinke for his career. And we kind of know why that is. Going into LA, really tough spot for Greinke. I don't think I'm going to be getting to him. Well, actually, I know I'm not going to be getting to him. He's 11K. I prefer Severino. I prefer a guy we'll talk about in the last game. He's not a guy I love targeting against, but he does give up some hard contact to lefties. Line drives, near 25% line drive rate, 36.6% hard contact, and if the Dodgers stack is just going to be completely unowned, then I'm all over that, even against a guy that I think is very good in Greinke. 4.2 run total. I can't imagine they're going to be owned, but anytime they're not going to be, I'm definitely interested. So that's where I'm at. No Greinke. Going to have over the field on Dodgers bats, I would imagine. And then Ryu has been really solid. 2 out of his 3 starts since returning from that long DL stint. I don't really have a problem playing him here for 8,200. The price is right. The matchup isn't perfect, but 14% swinging strike rate in his last start did exactly what he needed to do against San Diego. As far as pitch count goes, he threw 86 in his last start. That's kind of the one negative I'm seeing with him. They don't let him go deep at all. So for 8,200, you kind of would want that. You kind of want your $8,200 pitcher to at least have a chance at 100 pitches. I don't really think Ryu has that. So that's kind of the one negative. And then if you're going bats against Ryu, I think you know who it is. It's Pollock and Goldschmidt, and really that's about it on the Diamondback side. But just a 3.9 total for them. Mets and Giants, last game of the night. We have Zach Wheeler going up against Andrew Suarez, and I like both pitchers here. Wheeler, especially for 10-6, I think he's going to be one of my highest exposed players of this entire slate. Just does such a good job getting soft contact, and you throw in soft contact in AT&T against a bad Giants team that has a bunch of righties. I mean, not that it matters. Wheeler can strike out righties or lefties. And in fact, I think he's striking out more lefties the last time I looked. But the Mets treat him like an ace. And what I mean by that is, so he's 10-6. I think he's got 30-plus point upside here. I don't think that's a hot take at all either. He's gone 109, 113, 95, and 108 pitches in his last 4 starts. The strikeouts will almost certainly be there. Looking at some of these guys in this Giants lineup, like Yorkies and Nick Hundley, Austin Slater, all around or above average against righties as far as strikeout rate. And then Andrew Suarez, 7,800 here. It's a great park. I almost always, I shouldn't say almost always, I almost never play Suarez when he's on the road. I consider him all the time when he's at home. Like looking at the game logs, you can see pretty quickly he's got some splits. He really benefits from pitching in that great pitcher's ballpark in the cool weather in San Francisco. The Mets striking out almost 25% against lefties on the season. An 80 WRC plus 124 ISO. They just don't have much to offer as far as power outside of like Todd Frazier and maybe Wilmer Flores. But even in that park, it's going to be really, really tough to get the ball out of there under 70 degrees. So both pitchers I like quite a bit. I'm going to be having the late night hammer with a bunch of Suarez and Zach Wheeler, it's looking like. All right, that's going to do it for the night shift. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Check out all of our content tomorrow. I'm not going to list it off because it would probably take about 10 minutes, as it did to start off the show. But see you in chat tomorrow morning. Good luck researching this slate, guys.